Hiya, folks. So, I have finally, well, I suppose, explained everything in just bare facts to the pastor of the Pentecostal Church, Mick Harris, about that when Kylie Bevan asked him to stop me coming to services that she goes to, she was asking him to take her side, and he did. She was asking him to agree that she's right and I was wrong. Therefore, there was judgment. There was judgment that I was wrong. Judgment enough for him to then say that he is right to take her side and stop me coming to services that she goes to. I said to him, you know, because I reminded you recently, and I've reminded you previously as well, that the Son of God, you know, the one that you say you love, the one that you say that you've given your life to, that he told us how we should conduct ourselves in such matters. But when she asked you to do things that were not in line with that in any way, shape or form, instead of using that as a teaching opportunity, as you should have done, if you are a teacher, you would have taught her about that at that point in time. But you chose to do things according to the world. What she was asking was according to the world, and what you then did was according to the world. I said, by that, and by the fact that I've reminded you of this, I've reminded you that this is still a situation, and you've done nothing about it. You've had no care at all to change the situation. You have no desire to consider what consequence that may have on you and Kylie Bevan. I told you at least 6-7 months ago that you needed to tell her that she needs to go to God and you need to go to God, and you didn't, because you wouldn't, for the same reason that she didn't and you didn't on that day, and the same reason that you've not changed your path ever since, even though you know that it was wrong. Because you know, if the Word of God says you're supposed to do things a certain way, then that is the way that you should have done things. Right? As a teacher, you would know that. As a pastor, you should be concerned about her spiritual welfare. Well, it's true, shouldn't he? Come on. As a pastor, you've got to be concerned about someone's spiritual well-being and the path they're on. As a teacher, it's your job to help them to choose the right path by helping them to understand the consequences of the ways they do things that is not of that right path. But they don't do it. They don't care. Now, the reality is, of course, that pastor could therefore ban me from his church. And he may very well do that. But, yeah. Is there any particular need for me not to be banned from that church in totality? Not really. I do go to the tea and coffee things, but is there any worth there? No, not at all. No, not really. Yeah, I speak to a few people, but yeah, in the end, is any of that really something that I should, well, yeah. Are any of those two people, the two men that I speak to, are either of those men likely to be of God? To be men that will understand that they can leave that church and just go to God and have that relationship with God rather than rely on the people in church. Just go to God. Do I think that they will do that? No. So therefore, it's all very well talking to people that seem nice, but there's not really any point to it, is there? Really, because the thing of it is, this has been on my self-awareness that me going to any event in that church is me supporting what that church does, and that's difficult because I can't really do that knowing that they're happy with situations like that. They're happy with situations of doing things according to the world in that way. As I say, I understand it. I've talked about it many, many times about how, obviously, look, what are you going to choose? Are you going to choose as a pastor teacher to have a hard life when you go into a church? Or you're going to choose to have those pats on the back? Well, pats on the back are nicer, much nicer than people, getting angry with you because you're calling them out. So therefore, just don't call people out. It's easy. It's an easier life. And for someone in the church, do you want an easier life where everyone likes you, everyone's pleased to see you, or do you want that situation where people don't really want to talk to you because you're someone's going to talk about God, and that's going to make them look bad because they don't really give a crap about God, and that's showing them up in church. So therefore, they don't want to speak to you. They don't want to be anywhere near you. They want shallow. You want deep. So therefore, you make them look bad. So it's easier to want shallow, isn't it? And there you go. That's why people do that, because it's easier. People believe that when they come to God, their life should be easier. Again, where they get that in the Word of God, I don't think you know. We understand it from the early church that those people, their lives got a lot bloody harder. A lot harder. And yet we think that our lives should become easier. Yeah. And my life didn't become easier, no. Got a lot harder. And continued to be harder. Yeah. But for good reason. Because now I have that character. Now, as I say, for me, I don't care about any of that. I said in the message to the pastor, we have this situation where, the world has been encouraging people to not say anything that could offend people because, people have a go at you for that. Now in the world you can get cancelled because you offended people. So that even stopped people asking questions. Because they knew that asking questions could seem offensive. If you're saying something, if I challenge what you say and say, okay, where in the Word of God did you get that? You get offended. That's how I got banned from everything in the River Church. Because of that very thing. Because I asked a question. Someone said something that was ridiculous. I asked, where did they get that in the Word of God? Because they mentioned God. They said they're trusting God because of this. I said, well, where did you get that in the Word of God? They complained to the pastor. Right? It's not as if I said, the woman involved, it's not as if I said to that woman, look, you're not of God. You've chosen a path to hell. Enjoy your life as much as you can because your eternal destination is going to be bloody horrible. I could have said that. I didn't. That would have been true. Yeah. If she goes bitching to the pastor when someone's asked a question that she doesn't like, then hell is the right place for her, isn't it, really? She certainly won't get into heaven with that sort of attitude. And that's okay, it's her choice. She chooses her path. But we have that situation where pastors don't then say, because of course the pastor of the River Church, this young boy who took over from Jeff Oakes, He should have said to her, okay, what was said? What did you say that he said that to? And then he would have said, well, actually, okay, where is it in the Word of God? But he won't, because she'd get offended with him. Now, she'd complain about him. You can't have that. Yeah. Well, you bet your bottom dollar. Paul offended lots of people. Peter offended lots of people. John, Mark, Timothy offended lots of people. Right? They all offended lots of people because they spoke truth. They spoke truth at a time when truth was not welcome. Well, it offends people. We know that. That's why they wanted to crucify the Son of God, because he spoke truth. And the truth he spoke, shined a light on their darkness. And they couldn't have that. Exactly the same as people in church. I said to the pastor, I said, it was silly. But in messaging tonight, I said it was silly because there was never any need for her to ask you to stop me from going to services she goes to. There was no need for you to say yes, because I was never going to come back to a service. I only came in after the service to speak to you about the men's meeting because you hadn't told me where. In the years before then, I hadn't come into the church. In the years after, I haven't come into the church. I came in once, on that one occasion. The only necessity for that to happen was God knew what was in her and what was in you, and what had to be shown. That was the purpose of it. Another church that feels it's appropriate to ban people. Another church that feels it's appropriate to not do things according to God. Like the River Church, they put up on their thing what their belief is. But if you ask them the question, do you believe that we should conduct ourselves the way that Yeshua said? Oh, absolutely, they'll say yes. So when you say, okay, so when people complain to you about someone, do you actually say to that person, what are you doing? Why aren't you speaking to that person about it? They will then say very, very quickly, I think you need to find yourself another church. You might have issues in this one. Because you will. Right? You will. If you expect them to do things according to the words of the Son of God, that Son of God, when they say it's all about you, Jesus, from those songs, it's all about you, Jesus, we love you, Jesus, blah, blah. Yeah. Do they? No. No. Because when he says do something and they don't like what he says, they don't do it. That's not love, is it? I don't know what it is, but it ain't love. They choose the bits they like and they do those. The bits they don't like, they just ignore. Yeah. Not helpful, but they